I'm doing the front brakes on my 2007 Dodge Grand Caravan. Front end, left and right, obviously. Just the tools you'll need. I've got a jack stand and a jack. So you want that for safety to get your car jacked up. Tools for the job, breaker bar with a 19 and a 21 millimeter socket. You'll need a socket wrench with a number 7 hex tool. You need brake cleaner for the rotors. You need brake lubricant for the caliper guide pins. You need a piston retraction tool to push the piston back into the caliper. Either that or a U clamp. Need a big wrench to put the spring back onto the caliper, and then I use a torque wrench to put the lug nuts and other important nuts back on. Not mentioned here, not shown here, is a screwdriver to take the spring off of the caliper. Okay, we'll get into all that. First thing, I release the calipers in the back, which are here. So I've got, this is a number 7, and there are 2 caliper guide pin bolt slots, just one here, and then there's another one down below. That's what the guide pins look like. What we'll do when we put those back on, we'll lubricate these really well. You want the caliper to be able to slide shut. As the brake pads wear down, the caliper jaws decrease and they slide on these pins. I have a separate video on this, but I'm showing how to get this spring off of the outer part of the caliper. I'll link in my separate video, but in a nutshell, to get it off, just put your screwdriver in the way I've got it here. I've already taken the spring off, I'm just showing you. Just put it in this way, as you can see, I hope, and then just pull out, and the spring will pop right off. Once you've got the spring out, you should be able to, by hand, just maneuver this piece of the caliper off. You might have to stick a screwdriver in there or hammer it around a little bit, and then you'll see the brake pads, those are the 2 pads right there, starting to pop out. This one might actually, this will come off with the pad in the rear. Sorry, with the caliper in the rear. The front one fell out. Then what you do is, I usually lay it on the rotor, and I then extract the pad. You can just pull it off by hand. It'll pop out of the piston. So that's called the piston, and I'll talk about that when I reinstall these brake pads. For the moment, I've got some wire. This is tie wire. You can just hang it up here on the strut, and then you want to suspend your caliper from this. You don't want to have this hose here get bent or anything like that. Then unbolt those 2 bolts on the top and bottom, and this piece comes off, and that lets the rotor come right off. Depending on the age and condition of these rotors, you might have to put a little penetrating oil in there and let it sit for a bit, let the oil do its work. Or you could also just take a hammer and smack this thing. I'm throwing out these rotors, recycling them, so I can damage them up a little bit. My guide pins are not, they're not very smooth and flowing. So what I'm doing is I cleaned these out thoroughly. I took some like a towel. I took some brake cleaner and pushed it through here and got all the goop out. And then what I did was I took the caliper bolt, the guide bolt, got some caliper lube on it, and then ran it through the hole a few times, and did that over and over again until this guide pin was going through very smoothly. So I'll just pop it in, and it should be, yeah, it pops through very nicely. So you can just sit here and play with it and get it lubed up as much as you think is appropriate, and then do that for all 4. Quick overview of the part replacements. So I've got a rotor. There's 4 rotors in the car, 1 on each wheel. These are disc rotors. They're a disc, they just rotate. There's the old one, there's the new one. The old one I'm replacing because I do feel that it's a bit scored. I don't replace the rotors every time I do a brake job. I do it whenever I need it, basically. And you can see all the scoring in there. It's time to do this. It gets scored because the brake pad, you see there's the thick part on the right over here. That's the, in my case, I bought semi-metallic. It's the material is semi-metallic. As that semi-metallic material wears down, like as my thumb is progressing across it, it gets to this the metal base. If you are not replacing your pads fast enough, that metal base then starts to dig holes into your rotor. So when you start to hear the squeal from your brakes, you know it's time to start thinking about a brake pad job. And what happens then is, this is the outer pad. This little tab right there, you can see when the pad wears down, that little tab ultimately comes into contact with the rotor right here, and it'll start to squeak and make a noise. Just prior to putting the rotor on, I would use brake cleaner, take some paper towel, and give these rotors a good thorough cleaning. You can see there's a lot of gunk on them. There's a lot of chemical on there from the process where they machine the rotors down to smoothness. Okay, rotor's back on, and I've reaffixed and rebolted in the two mounting bolts. I bought special brake lubricant. It's synthetic brake lubricant. It's for guide pins, etc. So I really lubed these pins. I put them through a couple times with lubricant, pulled them out, cleaned off the pins, etc., just to make them nice and slick. They still don't feel very slick after they've been in for 10, 15, 20 minutes, but I think when they heat up, they'll work better. As the brake pads wear down, this piston protrudes out from the rear of the caliper, and what you do is you need to push that piston back in. You can buy these at auto parts stores. It's a brake retraction or piston retraction tool. You could use that, or you could use a clamp, a big U clamp that just fits in here, and then you press the piston back. All you need to do, take the old brake pad, support it in here, lay it in there, and then use that to push the piston in, because if you go directly onto the piston, you'll probably break it. All right, and I'm turning this tool, and the tool is pushing the piston back in. Some people open up the top of the brake fluid reservoir into the hood. I've never felt that I had to do that, actually. Do it if you like. And then snap the inner brake pad in, like so. Make sure if your fingers are greasy, don't get it on the pad. All right, place the outer pad, as I've got here in the middle of the screen. Place the outer pad back into the caliper, and then slide the other piece back on where it came from. Notice on the top left, right at the center of the screen, actually, push those bolts back, because you won't be able to get them in otherwise, or you won't be able to get the caliper back on otherwise. And then rebolt the caliper, the guide pins back into the unit, and just get it down there till they're snug. There, it's all done. I've got the clip back on. I'll do a link to my video on how to install that clip. Then put the wheel back on. I use a torque wrench to torque in the lug nuts. That's very, very important. You don't want your wheel coming off. And that is it. So I hope you got something out of this, and good luck.